Anyway, let's continue. Let's get to the hostile takeover bid for Warner Brothers Discovery. Warner Bros. Discovery. Okay.
Has just announced a hostile takeover bid for CNN's parent company, Warner Brothers Discovery. This news coming just days after the company announced a deal with Netflix.
CNN chief media analyst Brian Stelter is gathering the details. What is...
Anyway, Kushner, Saudis, Qataris, and the UAE is teaming up with Ellison to try to form the world's dominant English language media property. Paramount's initial press statement didn't include a mention of sovereign wealth funds, but September SEC filing said the outside financing partners include funds from Saudis, Qataris, Emirates, as well as Jared Kushner's affinity partners. Those funders have agreed to forego any governance rights to not trip CFIUS limits. Let's get into it. The Ellisons are at it again.
Well, that's got to go through a process, and we'll see what happens. It's Netflix is a great company, and they've done a phenomenal job. Ted is a fantastic man. I have a lot of respect for him, but it's a lot of market share. So we'll have to see what happens.
Now, Netflix has been courting President Trump in recent weeks, and so has Paramount CEO David Ellison. A lot of this comes down to the relationships that the president has with these media moguls and what direction these moguls want to take the company. Notably, though, this morning, Trump blasted Paramount and blasted David Ellison in a Truth Social post. Apparently, the president was very upset with 60 Minutes last night, and he said in all caps, they're no better than the old ownership. Since they bought it, 60 Minutes has actually gotten worse. So President Trump not happy with either of his options seemingly this morning. But more importantly, more notably, a hostile bid now for WBD. We don't know who will end up owning CNN and the rest of the company.
I like to think, like, how much further could this go? Like, how much more media consolidation could we have? Is it better if there's only one company? Because, like, it's already a handful, right? It's already a handful of media properties. Might as well get to just one singular media entity. But hey, as long as it's not run by the government, it's fine, right? You know, that's capitalism, baby. No, it's not fine. Okay? It is, if a monopoly is going to happen regardless, which obviously in the best circumstance, this is what capitalism is supposed to foster. No monopolies, right? And yet, for some weird reason, the more wealth is concentrated in the hands of a select few, the more they consolidate power as well. This is one of the most important aspects of said power. It's an expression of said power. Okay? And it's crazy that virtually all of these different organs of the media are now in the hands of like 8 fucking people total. And it seems like they want to even consolidate further. I say, if it turns into a monopoly in the hands of, you know, a handful of people, maybe it's easier to take over with the state. The difference, of course, in this situation is, consolidation is not capitalism. No, it is a natural phenomena. For that reason, of course, capitalism is going to invite this kind of consolidation. What do you mean? These are companies that are doing capitalism better than everybody else. The entire point is to try to monopolize an entire sector. There is a reason why the government, in an anti-capitalist initiative, is supposed to engage in some sort of antitrust measure, some sort of regulatory measure to break these fucking major companies, and yet they choose not to do that over and over again because they're completely captive to wealth. Consolidation will kill capitalism faster than socialism. I don't disagree with you. That's why I'm saying, like, how much more of this can we take? Okay. We only had cable TV until a decade ago. It's fine. No. Because once again, yeah, sure, we have social media and whatnot, but the less diversity that exists in the hands of a select few, the easier it is to control all flows of information, especially when the guy we're talking about that wants to fucking make this merger happen, not only just bought CBS, wants CNN, and on top of that, owns TikTok. So it's these fucking dudes that literally own the social media platforms as well. And if you think that they're not actively looking for new ways to try and foment pro-Israel sentiment, for example, this is one example, right? One example of many others that you can talk about. Or make people feel better about this kind of concentration of wealth that exists, make people feel better, or try to get them to hyper focus on other things, create discontent or take advantage of that discontent and then reshift people's priorities back to like marginalized communities and whatnot. If you don't think that this kind of concentration of wealth and power is not going to make that easier, you're not paying attention. Sarcasm is dead. It doesn't matter. It's going to happen anyway, is what I mean. Okay.
Entire media and entertainment industry. Paramount launched a hostile takeover bid for all of Warner Brothers Discovery after an $82 billion deal with Netflix was announced on Friday.
When you put number 1 and number 3 together, you are handing Netflix unprecedented market power, which is anti-competitive in every single measure.
That's so funny that he's saying that. Yeah. He's doing this for competition, actually. And for the record, I think the Ellisons are buying CNN no matter what happens. Okay? The bid for Warner Brothers Discovery is actually about CNN. And no, CNN is not broke as fuck. You're wrong. You're wrong. You don't know. You're absolutely wrong about that. CNN is insanely profitable on its own. Still, to this day, CNN is insanely profitable. Okay? A lot of these companies, no, I'm not incorrect. CNN actually generates a fuck ton of profits. It's unimaginable to think. I get it, especially if you are on the internet. You're like, what the fuck? CNN is profitable? Yes. Billions of dollars in profit that they fucking bring in every year. The reason why you don't think it's profitable is because of the fake accounting that takes place. So they take the profits that CNN is generating and they basically divvy it out. Okay? Not only is it unimaginably profitable, but also on top of that, they continue to make these insane moves to like do partnerships like Kalshi and shit. Okay? Chatters don't know CNN has been making billions from no. Okay. It's a funny joke. But the reason why CNN is a very profitable entity is because of its ad space. Okay? They are profitable because of their fucking ad space. That's it. Hi, TV guy here. CNN makes more money than TBS and TNT combined, and that's their 2 flagships. Yes. If they commit fully to making CNN super right wing, won't they lose most of their profits from their current audience? I think the gamble currently is maybe putting the cart before the horse a little bit. I think these guys do legitimately think that you can dominate. I think these guys legitimately believe if you own all these media properties and you just basically fucking get them to be more right wing, you'll be able to make the entire country more right wing. And there is some truth to that, for sure. Okay? Especially if they don't go too heavy-handed with it, especially if they do like a center-right pivot, even though CNN already is center-right, so I don't know how much more center-right they can fucking be. But they genuinely think that if you control the flows of information, you can control people's minds across the board. Like people will, especially if you do it successfully enough and if you do it frequent enough, people will lose the forest for the trees. Okay? I don't think the ideology is that deep. I just think they like money. Oh, no. This is propaganda. This is absolutely a part of making money and continuing the super profits. Propaganda plays a major role. That's the reason why average chatters and regular folk don't understand the importance of what I do, for example. But you know who does understand that? The motherfucking billionaires that literally give unlimited funds to right-wing YouTube channels, okay? They understand that. Why are they making that investment? Do you think they're getting a return on that investment? Fuck no. They're doing it because they recognize that the steady flow of propaganda that actually distracts the working class causes them to not organize, causes them to like every moment that one of your neighbors is invested in thinking about like whatever fucking trans people are doing, or, you know, Guatemalan migrants being a serious threat to American civilization, is a moment where they don't recognize their class position, is a moment where they don't want to organize. Okay. Wealthy people understand their class position. Billionaires, millionaires, capital owners understand their class position, and they're constantly engaging in class warfare. From this Marxian perspective, they are doing it all the time. And a big part of doing it all the time relies on making sure that the proletariat, the working class, do not understand their class position. And the best possible way to do that is by consistently dividing the working class and ensuring that they are too busy fighting amongst themselves to not look up and realize that maybe they should actually unite on their class interest and go up against the billionaires and millionaires. Okay? Simply put, it's the whole dynamic between it's not left right, it's actually up versus down. It's true. There is truth to that. The reason why they're doing this is not immediately to make money. The reason why they're doing this is so that they can continue to make money without any sort of pushback whatsoever, without any sort of organizing against them whatsoever, because propaganda plays a big role. Okay? The other side of the story, as far as monopolization and power concentration, is that when you actually are able to achieve a monopoly, you can slowly but surely raise prices, and there's no market competitors. So what are you gonna fucking do, right? You still need delivery, so you have to keep paying the now increased prices. And also on top of that, in order to make sure that profit margins keep going up, regardless of this, regardless of the ways in which technological improvements actually lower profit margins in general, you can still turn around and lower wages and find new ways of increasing profits, because the most malleable aspect of the most valuable aspect of commodity production, in order to extract more surplus labor value, is on the point of labor. You can always reduce wages, you can always reduce benefits, and continue to expand your profit margins year over year. And that's where we're at. And that's what's happened with Amazon, for example. Predatory pricing with Amazon, and a bunch of anti-competitive initiatives that Amazon engaged in made it a monopoly in the field of e-commerce, right? And now they just dominated. They dominate e-commerce. They can increase prices if they choose to do so, and no one can say anything about it because they can't go anywhere else. That's a major problem with monopolies in different airlines, for example. Certain markets in the American airspace are dominated by either one company or two companies, right? And if you have to fly to, I don't know, Clearwater, Florida or something, you just have to take that fucking airline. There is no alternative. You have no other alternatives. You have no alternatives in terms of like taking a train or any other alternative versions of travel. And you don't even have any alternatives when it comes to different airlines that you can take, right? And that is precisely how these companies can continue to ruin whatever kind of services that they used to offer with not much pushback. We also have to take into account the opposite end of the monopoly. It's not just one seller, it's one buyer. For instance, something like Amazon, it forces people who want to sell goods to take bad revenue splits, or in TV, it forces writers to pitch a show to one or two people who will not offer competitive prices. Yes. Think about it from the same perspective of Twitch streaming, right? When there was only one dominant force, streamers couldn't argue for better contracts, for example. But when there's multiple platforms out there, that's actually supposed to be good for competition. So now you can leverage the relationships that you have with different platforms. And when that goes away, when all of the other, when Microsoft, for example, shuttered its competitive live streaming project, what happened? Twitch actually said, we don't have to do contracts anymore, right? Yeah, when Mixer went away, when it was not competitive, and the market consolidated even further, Twitch realized they don't actually have to offer big contracts to these top content creators in general. I'm not saying this from the perspective of like, oh, woe is me. Oh, big Twitch streamers deserve more money or some shit. I'm just giving you an example that you might be, aware of, right? Hassan arguing for free market capitalism? No, as a matter of fact, if you were to understand the point I'm making, I'm saying that free market capitalism, in the way that we understand it, immediately create these monopolies. Because every single company obviously wants to pay the least amount of wages that they can possibly get away with and extract the most amount of profits. Okay? And the best possible way to do that is by consolidating power in the hands of few. Mergers and acquisitions, horizontal and vertical integration. So you basically control every part of the productive process. And this is before we even talk about like natural monopolies with major barriers of entry, because that's a whole different side of the story as well. But every single company wants to do that, right? Every single company wants to become a monopoly because competition reduces profits. And as long as there is an oligopoly, as is the case in many of these sectors now, virtually all of them, for example, with years and years of deregulation, years and years of the government basically stepping out of the way of companies, merging with one another, doing horizontal and vertical integration, you have arrived at a situation where, 6 companies basically own everything, every aspect, every commodity that you consume comes from like basically a handful of companies. And when there's only 6 companies, it's much easier to engage in the act of price fixing. But price fixing is illegal. So what do these companies do? Well, they do the legal thing, which is called price leadership. Price leadership is much simpler if you have 2 companies or 3 companies or 4 companies, right? Where one company decides, hey, we're going to actually charge you for your luggage. Then the other companies go, ooh, that's a good idea. We should also do the same, okay? Price leadership is much more legal than price fixing, even though from the perspective of the consumer, it's literally the fucking same. And technically, it does operate almost in the exact same way. If there were 1,000 companies in that same sector, it'd be much more difficult to consolidate prices, okay? Because, some companies would figure out more efficient ways of production, or some companies would figure out, some companies could technically figure out something innovative, and then they could just basically explode like a bomb on the fucking marketplace and force other companies to also engage in innovation. That's how competition is supposed to work, but it doesn't work that way because all capitalist corporations at the end of the day want to become a monopoly or take advantage of cartels, right? And it's really interesting because it is worse than a state capitalist enterprise. This is worse than a state-run monopoly, okay? Because at least in theory, a state-run monopoly is still accountable to social welfare because the government is supposed to ensure not only a level of efficiency if it is a state-run monopoly, but also on top of that, it's supposed to care in theory because of the democratic process. It's supposed to care about the welfare of its citizens, right? Private enterprise doesn't work that way. Private enterprise, not just in theory, but in practice, has never cared about the social welfare of people. It cares about one thing and one thing only: increasing profits. Okay? That's how you arrive at this situation. It's not an accident that America has become less and less innovative over the years. Especially, I would say, even though technology does seem to exponentially grow, and therefore we're still reaping the bountiful technological innovations as a consequence of that exponential growth. The only innovation you see from these companies is like newer methods of basically farming whatever meager wages you get year over year, because that's what they care about at the end of the day. Innovating new ways of seeking out profit. Why is the government involved? What does the government have to do with buying Warner Bros? Great question. Now, in a healthy government, in a normal government, the government should be involved in this, okay? The government should be involved in stopping it. The government should be involved in implementing the antitrust laws that are in the books. Except we don't live in a normal government. We don't live in a normal world. We live in hyper-capitalist dystopia, the United States of America, where corruption is rampant and out in the open. And Donald Trump is only getting involved specifically so that he can get a better managed deal for his buddies, who I assume will either cut them a piece of that pie financially, or or get favorable coverage out of this at the end of the day, you know? And you probably really want favorable coverage at the end of the day if you are planning on staying in power far beyond what's supposed to be your term limit, right? I don't think it's just like Trump is silly and wants Rush Hour 4 is what I mean. I think he wants he wants to make sure that there is a servile major media monopoly that will make it seem like everything he's doing is great. Yes, a pliant propaganda engine. It's not like they're hiding it either. You said this is what Putin did in Russia. Dissenting media stations were forcibly sold to Putin cronies. Erdogan in Turkey. Every fucking dude. What is unfolding in front of our eyes, even though it has like the Western veneer of fake democracy or some sort of like democratic process or some sort of like laws in the books, has unfolded in every fucking developing country. Every single one. Every country that has been destabilized by America, every single fucking country that moved in this direction has done it. It is not unprecedented at all. You get a bunch of fucking wealthy loyalists, okay? Wealthy loyalists that have the same exact class interests as you to go and pick up every fucking, every media outlet you possibly can, okay? And then you pump a shit ton of propaganda. Oh, everything is great. Everything is great. It's awesome. Trump is the best, actually. Don't believe your own immediate. Don't believe your lying eyes. Don't believe your own immediate frustrations with like how things are going, because things are actually fucking awesome. Okay. It's kind of crazy. Because, I mean, the media has always had, I mean, obviously manufactured consent. The media has always had class interests that they play a role in defending, right? It has the capacity to normalize certain kinds of harms that you're experiencing in your day-to-day basis. It also will tell you, things are fine, things are good. It has a capacity to propagandize against certain groups. There's a reason why so many fucking Americans are just like, I hate the Chinese. They're so dangerous. It's like, what the fuck has a Chinese person ever done to you? You know, there's a reason why you feel that way, because every fucking orifice is constantly pumping that kind of fear mongering propaganda. So you then develop that attitude. Same thing with like Afghanistan or Iraq or any number of different places where we've actually had, illegal invasions and whatnot. So this doesn't happen in the UK. What are you talking about? It happens everywhere. Like I just said, this wouldn't happen in the EU. Yes, it already has happened in many places around the world. It's just this is even worse than that. Like, this already exists. What are you talking about? I mean, look at Rupert Murdoch. The difference is, also not in the EU, check Hungary. The difference is getting worse. Like it's getting a metric ton worse, basically. Okay. It's worse than it was before. And it's only going to get worse. There is already a concept of like different media barons, both in the UK and everywhere else, and in Europe as well. But this is becoming more like Venezuela, for example. And ironically enough, I don't mean like, because people, when I say Venezuela, assume that like, oh, Maduro controls the media. No, it's the actual opposite. Even during the Chavez time and certainly during Maduro, this is a version of this already exists in Mexico, in Venezuela, and numerous other places where like historically it's very wealthy billionaires in the country that own all of the media properties, and they pump a shit ton of negative coverage with regular frequency. at least there are state broadcasters in some of these countries, or at least in the case of like, in the case of AMLO and now Claudia Sheinbaum, the Morena party has basically cut out the middleman and go direct to market with their daily fireside chats and whatnot. So there are ways of trying to overcome this kind of like incredible amount of negative propaganda when you are threatening their bottom lines. But in France, you got right-wing monopolies of the press and liberal monopolies of the press. Billionaire should not exist. Yeah, it's just, it goes even beyond the regular like influence peddling. It goes beyond the regular influence peddling that already exists in like liberal societies as well, even though there is a version of this that's taking place in liberal societies. It's just very, it's frustrating to experience this in the United States of America to this degree. But it is something that I think it's something that I think a lot of people are already familiar with. Yeah, the billionaire family poised to rewire U.S. media in Israel's favor, having acquired Paramount and CBS and eyeing TikTok and CNN. The Ellisons are constructing a pro-Israel information empire with unprecedented reach. This is literally the goal here. Okay, I'm sorry. This isn't some kind of this isn't some kind of like anti-Semitic, oh my God, Jews are taking over the media type shit. Okay, this is just straightforwardly the Ellisons openly stating their desire to do this. And the article is from 972 magazine, obviously, which is, you know, an Israeli investigative reporting outlet. They've done a lot of good work on the IDF war crimes that they've committed. 972 magazine specifically was the one that was responsible for the investigative reporting that uncovered the AI targeting tools that the IDF utilizes.